The wind on planet Cora 7 always smelled like copper and wet leaves. Yuna had lived here for 3 years now, and she still was not used to it. She was 19 years old, small for her age, with short black hair and quick hands that were always dirty from digging in alien soil. She worked as a junior botanist for the human colony. Every day, she walked outside the safety walls to collect plant samples. It was dangerous work. Cora 7 was beautiful, but it wanted to kill you. The plants could poison you. The insects could eat through your skin. And then there were the Korans. The Korans were dragons. That was the only word that fit. They had 6 legs, scales harder than steel, and mouths that could breathe fire hot enough to melt rock. The biggest ones were larger than houses. They were the reason the colony walls were 3 meters thick. They were the reason Yuna's brother Taiho never slept well. Taiho was a security officer. He was 7 years older than Yuna, and he worried about her constantly. Every morning he told her the same thing. Be careful, stay inside the safe zones. Do not be stupid. Yuna always smiled and nodded. Then she did whatever she wanted. Today, she had walked farther than usual. The colony needed samples of a rare flower that only grew near the eastern ravine. The ravine was outside the safe zone. Yuna knew she should not go there. She went anyway. The forest here was darker. The trees grew so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. Yuna moved carefully, filling her bag with samples. She was good at her job. She was fast and quiet. She knew which plants to touch and which ones to avoid. She was about to turn back when she heard the sound. It was not a roar. Korans roared when they hunted, and that sound could freeze your blood. This was different. This was a whimper, a cry of pain. Yuna should have run. Every rule, every protocol, every word her brother had ever said told her to run. Instead, she walked toward the sound. She found the creature in a small clearing. It was a Koran, but a young one. Its body was about the size of a large horse, covered in dark green scales that shimmered like oil on water. Its 6 legs were curled under its body. Its wings were pressed flat against its back. Its head was on the ground, and it was breathing in short, painful gasps. Yuna stopped at the edge of the clearing. Her heart was beating so hard she could hear it in her ears. The creature could kill her in 1 second. 1 bite. 1 breath of fire. She would be dead before she could scream. But it did not attack. It just lay there, suffering. Yuna looked at its face. 1 nostril was swollen to twice its normal size. The skin around it was red and infected. Yellow pus leaked from the edges. And there, buried deep in the flesh, she saw something. A thorn. A big one, black and sharp, from a plant called Iron Fang. The thorns were poisonous. If the creature did not get it out, the infection would spread to its brain. It would die slowly and painfully. The Koran opened its eyes. They were golden, bright like 2 small suns. They looked at Yuna with an expression she did not expect. Not anger, not hunger, just exhaustion, just pain. And somewhere deep inside, something that looked almost like hope. Yuna made her decision. She put down her bag slowly. She held up her empty hands so the creature could see them. She took 1 step forward, then another, then another. The Koran watched her. It growled low in its throat, a warning. Yuna stopped. She waited. The growling faded. She took another step. She was close now, close enough to smell its breath hot and metallic, close enough to see the individual scales on its snout, close enough to die. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her tools. A small knife, tweezers, antiseptic spray. Her hands were shaking, but she forced them to be steady. She touched the Koran's nostril. The creature flinched. Its whole body went tight. Yuna could feel the power in it, the terrible strength that could tear her apart. But it did not move. It let her work. The thorn was deep. Yuna had to cut away some of the infected flesh to reach it. The Quran screamed, a sound that shook the trees and sent birds flying in every direction. But still it did not attack. It just pressed its head harder into the ground and let her continue. Finally, Yuna grabbed the thorn with her tweezers. She pulled. It came out with a horrible wet sound, followed by a river of blood and pus. The smell was terrible. Yuna gagged but kept working. She cleaned the wound as best she could and sprayed it with antiseptic. Then she stepped back. The Quran lifted its head slowly. It looked at its nostril, then at Yuna. Those golden eyes studied her face for a long moment. Yuna did not move. She did not breathe. The creature made a sound, not a growl, not a roar, something softer, almost like a sigh. Then it lowered its head back to the ground and closed its eyes. Yuna picked up her bag and walked away. She did not run. She did not look back. She just walked, one foot in front of the other, until she was back inside the colony walls. That night, she told no one what she had done. Taiho asked why she looked so pale at dinner. She said she was just tired. Hana, her best friend, asked why her hands were shaking. She said it was cold outside. She lay in bed that night and stared at the ceiling. She could not stop thinking about those golden eyes, the pain in them, the trust. When she finally fell asleep, she dreamed of a dragon watching her from the darkness. In the dream, she was not afraid. A week passed after Yuna helped the wounded Quran. She tried to forget about it. She went back to her normal life. She collected plant samples. She ate meals with her brother. She talked and laughed with Hana. Everything was normal. But something had changed. The first report came on the third day. A security patrol saw a Quran near the eastern wall. This was strange. Qurans avoided human settlements. They did not like the noise, the lights, the smell of machines. But this one came close. It stood at the tree line for almost an hour, just watching. Then it disappeared. The second report came on the fifth day. Same Quran, same spot, watching. Taiho was worried. He spent long hours in the security center, studying camera footage. The Quran was young, he said. Dark green scales, alone, which was unusual for their kind, and it kept coming back. Commander Do-Yun called a meeting. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that never smiled. He had led the colony for 10 years, and he had seen many people die. He did not take risks. "We may need to kill it," he said, "before it becomes a problem." Yuna sat in the back of the meeting room. Her stomach felt cold. She wanted to say something. She wanted to tell them the truth, but she could not. If they knew what she had done, she would be punished. Maybe sent back to Earth. Maybe worse. So she stayed silent. The next morning, Yuna went outside the walls. She told everyone she was collecting samples. That was a lie. She needed to see if she was right about something. She walked to the eastern forest, near where the patrols had spotted the Quran. She found a quiet clearing and sat down on a rock. Then she waited. She did not have to wait long. The creature came out of the trees slowly. It moved without sound, like smoke flowing over the ground. Its scales caught the sunlight and shimmered. Its golden eyes found her immediately. Yuna recognized it at once. The scar on its nostril was still healing, pink and fresh against the dark green scales. It was the same Quran. It had been watching the colony because it was watching her. She should have been afraid. She was not. The Quran walked toward her. It stopped 3 meters away and lowered its head until its eyes were level with hers. It made that soft sound again, the one that was almost like a sigh. "You remember me?" Yuna said quietly. The Quran blinked. It tilted its head to one side, like a dog trying to understand a new word. Yuna smiled. She reached into her bag and pulled out a piece of dried meat. She had brought it just in case. She held it out on her flat palm. The Quran sniffed the meat. Then, very gently, it took the food from her hand. Its teeth were as long as her fingers, but it did not hurt her. It ate the meat in one bite and looked at her again, waiting. "I think I need to give you a name," Yuna said. She thought for a moment. "How about Vex?" The Quran made a rumbling sound deep in its chest. It sounded almost like agreement. Yuna laughed. It felt strange to laugh here, in the dangerous forest, with an apex predator standing right in front of her. But she could not help it. The whole situation was crazy and wonderful. She visited Vex every day after that. She brought food and water. She talked to him, telling him about her life, her work, her brother who worried too much. Vex listened. He seemed to understand her tone, if not her words. When she was happy, he made soft sounds. When she was sad, he pressed his snout gently against her shoulder. On the 10th day, Yuna learned exactly how much Vex cared about her. She was walking back to the colony when the Skrells attacked. Skrells were wolf-like creatures with too many teeth and no fear. They hunted in packs of 6 or 7. They were fast and smart and very, very hungry. Yuna heard them before she saw them. The clicking sound of their claws on rocks, the hissing of their breath. She turned and saw 5 of them coming out of the bushes. Their eyes were black and empty. Their mouths were open and dripping. She reached for her knife. She knew it would not be enough. She was going to die here, alone in the forest, torn apart by things with too many teeth. Then Vex came. He exploded from the trees like a green thunderbolt. His roar shook the air and made Yuna's ears ring. He hit the first Skrell with his claws and it simply came apart, blood and meat flying in all directions. The second one tried to run. Vex caught it in his jaws and shook it like a toy. The others scattered, screaming in fear. In less than 10 seconds, it was over. 3 Skrells were dead. The others had fled. Vex stood in the middle of the destruction, his scales splattered with blood, his breath coming in hot blasts. He turned to look at Yuna. She was covered in blood. Not hers. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. But she was alive. Vex walked toward her slowly. He lowered his massive head and pressed his nose against her palm. His breath was warm. His eyes were gentle. "Thank you," Yuna whispered. Vex made that sighing sound again. Then he stayed beside her, walking her all the way back to the colony walls. He stopped just outside the camera range and watched her go inside. That night, Yuna told Hana everything. Her friend was terrified at first, then amazed, then terrified again. "You have to stop," Hana said. "If anyone finds out, they will kill you both." "I cannot stop," Yuna replied. "He is my friend." Hana stared at her for a long moment. Then she sighed and shook her head. "You are crazy," she said, "but I will keep your secret." 3 days later, Commander Do-hyun made an announcement. The rogue Quran was becoming more aggressive. It had been seen closer and closer to the walls. A hunting party would be sent to eliminate the threat. Yuna heard the news and felt her heart stop. They were going to kill Vex. Her Vex, the creature who had saved her life. She had to do something. She just did not know what. Yuna could not sleep that night. She lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Her mind was racing. The hunting party would leave tomorrow morning. 12 soldiers with plasma rifles. Her brother Taeho would lead them. They would track Vex into the forest and they would kill him. She could not let that happen. She got out of bed before sunrise. The colony was still quiet. Most people were asleep. The guards at the east gate were tired and bored. They barely looked at her when she said she needed to collect samples early. They opened the gate and let her through. Yuna ran into the forest. She found Vex in his usual spot, curled up in a small cave near the ravine. He lifted his head when he heard her coming. His golden eyes were curious, then concerned. He could tell something was wrong. "You need to run," Yuna said. Her breath was coming fast. Her words tumbled out in a rush. "They are coming for you. Hunters. Many of them. You need to go far away. Please, Vex, please run." Vex stood up slowly. He was bigger now than when she first found him. In just a few weeks, he had grown almost twice his original size. His wounds had healed completely. He was strong and healthy and beautiful, and he was not moving. Yuna grabbed his snout with both hands. She looked into his eyes. "Did you hear me? You have to go. They will kill you." Vex made a low sound. He did not move. He just looked at her with those golden eyes, calm and steady. Yuna understood then. He was not going to leave. He was not going to abandon her, even if it meant his death. "You stupid lizard," she whispered. Tears were running down her face. "You stupid, wonderful, loyal lizard." She heard the sound of engines in the distance. The hunting party was coming. Yuna wiped her eyes and made a decision. She could not make Vex run. But maybe she could stop the hunters. She just had to reach them before they reached Vex. She started running back toward the colony, but she was too slow. The hunters were using vehicles. They passed her in minutes and disappeared into the forest ahead. She kept running anyway. When she finally reached the clearing, the fight had already begun. Taiho and his soldiers had found Vex near the river. They had surrounded him on 3 sides. Their rifles were pointed at his chest, but they had not fired yet because Vex was not attacking. The dragon was standing very still. His wings were flat against his back. His head was low. He was growling, but he was not breathing fire. He was not using his claws. He was just standing there, waiting. "Taiho, do not shoot him!" Yuna screamed. She burst into the clearing, pushing past 2 surprised soldiers. Her brother spun around. His face went pale. "Yuna, what are you doing here? Get back! Get away from it!" "He is not going to hurt anyone," Yuna said. She ran between the soldiers and Vex. She stood in front of the dragon, spreading her arms wide. "Please, put your guns down. Let me explain." Commander Do-hyun stepped forward. His face was like stone. "Explain what? That you have been meeting with this creature?" "We know, Yuna. The cameras caught you 2 days ago." Yuna's heart dropped. They knew. They had known all along. "This creature saved my life," she said. Her voice was shaking, but she did not stop. 3 weeks ago, I found him injured in the forest. He had a poisonous thorn in his nostril. He was dying. I removed it. I helped him heal. And since then, he has protected me. He killed a pack of Skrells that attacked me. He has never hurt any human. He is not a threat. "It is a Quran," Taiho said. His voice was hard. "They are all threats." Vex made a sound behind Yuna, a soft, sad sound. She turned and saw him looking at Taiho with something that looked almost like understanding. He knew what was going to happen. He knew he was going to die. But he still was not running. He still was not fighting. "Look at him," Yuna said. She turned back to face the soldiers. "Really look at him. Does he look like a mindless monster? He could have killed all of you by now. He could have burned this whole forest down. But he is just standing there. Because he knows I am asking him to. Because he trusts me." Commander Do-hyun was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Vex. He looked at Yuna. He looked at the ground between them. "The Korans have killed 37 colonists since we arrived on this planet," he said slowly. 37 people. My friends. My soldiers. Why should I believe this one is different? "Because I showed him something different," Yuna said. "I showed him that humans can be kind. And he is showing us that Korans can be more than just predators. Please, Commander, give him a chance. Give us a chance." The silence stretched on and on. The soldiers' rifles were still raised. Vex was still motionless behind Yuna. The whole forest seemed to be holding its breath. Then Taiho lowered his gun. "She is my sister," he said quietly. "She is foolish and reckless, and she makes me crazy with worry. But she is not a liar. If she says this creature saved her life, I believe her." One by one, the other soldiers lowered their guns, too. They looked at Commander Do-hyun, waiting. The commander let out a long breath. "Fine," he said. "We will not kill it. Today. But I want this creature watched constantly. Any sign of aggression, any threat at all, and I will put it down myself. Understood?" Yuna nodded. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Behind her, Vex made a soft sound. His body relaxed. He lay down on the ground and closed his eyes. The crisis was over. But as the soldiers started to leave, one of them looked at his scanner and went pale. "Commander," he said. His voice was strange. "You need to see this." Everyone gathered around the scanner. The screen showed a map of the surrounding area, and on that map, moving toward the colony from the north, were dozens of red dots. Each dot was a Quran. "A migration," Commander Do-hyun said. His face had gone white. "The biggest one I have ever seen. They will reach the colony in 6 hours." Yuna looked at the screen. Then she looked at Vex. The dragon had opened his eyes. He was staring at the north with an expression she had never seen before. Fear. The colony was in chaos. Sirens were screaming. People were running through the streets, grabbing supplies, carrying children. Everyone was afraid. Dozens of Korans were coming. The walls would not hold. The guns would not be enough. They were all going to die. Commander Do-hyun ordered the evacuation ship prepared, but the ship was small. It could only carry half the colonists. The other half would have to stay and fight. Yuna did not join the panic. She stood at the northern observation point with Vex beside her. She watched the scanner screen as the red dots moved closer and closer. Something about the pattern bothered her. Hana ran up to her, breathing hard. "Yuna, what are you doing? We need to get to the evacuation point." "Come on." "Wait," Yuna said. She pointed at the screen. "Look at how they are moving." Hana looked. "I do not see anything except death coming toward us." "They are not hunting," Yuna said slowly. "When Korans hunt, they spread out. They surround their prey. But look, these ones are bunched together. They are moving in a straight line. They are not trying to catch anything. So what are they doing?" Yuna turned to look at Vex. The dragon was still staring north. His body was tense. His scales were puffed up, making him look bigger. And he was shaking, not from cold, from fear. "Vex," Yuna said softly, "what is out there? What are they running from?" Vex turned his head and looked at her. He made a sound she had never heard before, low and deep and full of dread. Then he drew a shape in the dirt with his claw. A simple shape, a circle with lines coming out of it. Yuna did not understand at first. Then she remembered something from her training. The colonists had found cave paintings when they first arrived, ancient pictures made by Korans long ago. Most of the pictures showed hunting scenes, but some showed something else. A creature so big it blocked out the sun. A monster that even other monsters feared. A queen. Yuna's blood went cold. The queens were legends. Most scientists said they did not exist anymore, but the old stories said they could grow for hundreds of years. They could become as large as mountains. And when they woke up, they destroyed everything in their path. She ran to find Commander Do-hyun. The commander was in the control room, shouting orders and trying to organize the evacuation. He did not want to listen to Yuna. He had more important things to worry about, but Yuna grabbed his arm and made him stop. "They are not coming to attack us," she said. "They are running. Something is chasing them. A queen." Commander Do-hyun's face changed. For the first time since she had known him, he looked truly afraid. "That is impossible," he said. "The queens died out centuries ago." "Vex knows," Yuna said. "He showed me. He is terrified. I have never seen him afraid of anything before. But he is afraid of this." The commander was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to the main scanner and adjusted the settings. The screen flickered. The view expanded. And there, behind the dozens of fleeing Korans, was something else. One red dot. Enormous. Moving slowly but steadily. coming straight toward them. "Saints protect us," the commander whispered. The dot was the size of the entire colony on the scanner. Whatever was making it was bigger than anything they had ever seen. Yuna's mind was racing. "We cannot fight it," she said. "Our weapons are not strong enough, and we cannot run because the ship is too small." "Then what do you suggest?" Commander Doyon asked. His voice was bitter. "That we lie down and die?" "No," Yuna said. She looked at the screen again, at the dozens of Korans fleeing toward them, at the monster chasing them. And suddenly she had an idea. "We help them pass through." "What?" "The Korans are running from the Queen," Yuna said quickly. "They are terrified. They are not thinking about us at all. If we attack them, they will fight back and we will all die. But if we let them through, if we help them, maybe we can survive. You want us to help the creatures that have killed our people for years?" Taiho had arrived. His face was full of disbelief. "I want us to live," Yuna said. She looked at her brother. "I want you to live. I want everyone to live, and this is the only way." Commander Do-hyun stared at the scanner screen for a long time. The red dots were getting closer. They had maybe 4 hours now, maybe less. "What exactly do you have in mind?" he asked finally. Yuna told him. The next 3 hours were the busiest of Yuna's life. The whole colony worked together. They turned off the automatic defense turrets on the eastern and western walls, creating a corridor. They set up water tanks and food stations along the path. They put lights along the route to guide the Korans through. Many people thought Yuna was crazy. Some of them said so to her face. But they did the work anyway because they had no better ideas. Vex helped too, in his own way. He walked along the corridor, leaving his scent on the ground. Yuna hoped it would tell the other Korans that this path was safe. Then the migration arrived. The first Koran came out of the northern forest at sunset. It was huge, almost 3 times the size of Vex. Its scales were red and gold, and it was breathing hard. Behind it came another, then dozens more. They poured out of the forest like a river, young ones and old ones, big ones and small ones, all of them running, all of them terrified. The ground shook with their footsteps. The air filled with their roars and cries. The colonists watched from behind the barriers. Many were praying. Some were crying. Children hid their faces in their parents' clothes. But the Korans did not attack. They followed the corridor. They drank from the water tanks. They grabbed the food and kept running. Some of them looked at the humans with curiosity. A few of the younger ones stopped to sniff the air, but none of them attacked. For 2 hours, the dragons flowed through the colony. Yuna stood at the edge of the corridor with Vex beside her. She watched the creatures pass. She saw fear in their eyes, fear of something behind them. Then the flow stopped. The last Koran disappeared into the southern forest. The corridor was empty. The colonists started to cheer. They had done it. They had survived the migration. But Yuna was not cheering. She was looking at Vex. The dragon was staring north, his whole body rigid. "She is coming," Yuna whispered. The ground began to shake. Trees fell in the distance. A sound filled the air, deeper than thunder, louder than anything Yuna had ever heard. The queen had arrived. She came out of the forest like a nightmare made real. Her body was as big as the colony itself. Her scales were black as midnight, covered with scars from 1,000 battles. Her eyes were red as blood, and when they looked at the human settlement, there was nothing in them but rage. Vex stepped forward. He spread his wings. He opened his mouth and roared at the monster. "No!" Yuna screamed. "Vex, no!" But the dragon did not listen. He looked back at Yuna one last time. Then he ran toward the queen. He was going to die for her, and there was nothing she could do to stop him. Vex hit the queen like a green arrow. He slammed into her chest with all his weight, his claws digging into her ancient scales. The queen roared in surprise. She had not expected anything to attack her. Nothing had dared to fight her in centuries. Vex was fast. He climbed up her body, biting and slashing. Fire poured from his mouth, burning black lines across her scales. He was brave. He was fierce. But he was so small. The queen shook her body and Vex went flying. He crashed into the ground hard enough to crack the earth. Before he could get up, the queen's massive claw came down on top of him. She pressed him into the dirt like he was nothing, like he was an insect. Vex screamed. The sound tore at Yuna's heart. "No," she whispered, then louder. "No, no, no." She did not think. She did not plan. She just ran. "Yuna, stop!" Taiho's voice was far behind her. She did not listen. She ran toward the monsters. She found a vehicle near the gate, a small transport truck used for carrying supplies. The keys were still inside. She jumped in and started the engine. The tires screamed as she drove straight toward the queen. The queen saw her coming. Those red eyes, each one bigger than the truck, looked at her with something like amusement. A tiny human in a tiny machine. What could she possibly do? Yuna drove under the queen's body. It was like driving into a cave made of black scales. She stopped the truck near Vex. He was still alive, still struggling under the queen's claw. His golden eyes found her. "Go," he seemed to say. "Please go." "Never," Yuna said. She grabbed the emergency flare gun from the truck's survival kit. She pointed it up at the queen's belly and fired. The flare exploded against the scales, not doing any real damage but causing enough pain to make the queen flinch. The queen lifted her claw to deal with this new annoyance. Vex was free. The dragon did not waste the chance. He rolled to his feet and grabbed Yuna in his front claws, gentle as always, despite the battle. He ran. Behind them, the queen roared in fury. She started to chase, and then the humans attacked. Commander Do-hyun had not been standing still during Yuna's crazy charge. He had been giving orders. Every weapon the colony had was now pointed at the queen. Plasma rifles, rocket launchers, mining explosives, everything. "Fire!" the commander shouted. The night became day. Hundreds of weapons fired at once. The queen's roar turned from anger to pain as explosions covered her body. She stumbled. She fell. But she did not die. The queen stood up again. Smoke rose from her scales. Blood dripped from a dozen wounds. But she was still alive, still moving, still coming. "Our weapons are not strong enough," Taiho said. His voice was hollow. "We cannot kill her." Yuna looked at the queen. She looked at Vex. The dragon was hurt badly. One wing was broken. He was bleeding from his mouth, but he was still standing, still ready to fight. Then she saw it. A mark on the queen's throat. An old wound, badly healed, that had left a weak spot in her armor. The scales there were thin and cracked. If they could hit that spot with enough force. "Vex," Yuna said. She pointed at the queen's throat. "There. Do you see it?" Vex looked. His eyes narrowed. He understood, but he could not reach it alone. The queen was too big, too strong. He would need help. Yuna grabbed the radio from the truck. "Commander," she said, "I need every vehicle we have, every gun, every person who can fight. We need to distract her. Keep her looking down. Vex will do the rest." There was silence on the radio. Then Commander Do-hyun's voice came through, tired but determined. "Ya heard her. Everyone who can fight, move out. Let us finish this." The colonists came. They came in trucks and on foot. They came with guns and knives and tools. They were not soldiers. They were farmers and scientists and builders. But they came anyway. They surrounded the queen. They fired at her legs, her tail, her belly. They drove vehicles at her feet to trip her up. They screamed and shouted to keep her attention. The queen was confused. She was used to fighting other Korans, not these strange, small creatures that attacked from everywhere at once. She spun around trying to crush them, but they were too fast, too scattered. Now, Yuna shouted. Vex ran. Even with his broken wing, even with his wounds, he ran faster than Yuna had ever seen him move. He jumped onto the queen's back and climbed toward her throat. The queen felt him and tried to shake him off, but the humans increased their attack, keeping her distracted. Vex reached the weak spot. He opened his mouth. Fire built in his chest, hotter than ever before, fueled by everything he felt. His love for Yuna, his hatred of this monster, his determination to protect his family. He breathed. The fire hit the queen's throat like a sun being born. The weak scales melted. The flesh beneath burned. The queen made a sound that was not a roar. It was a scream. A death scream. She fell. The ground shook so hard that people were thrown off their feet. Dust and debris filled the air. For a long moment, no one could see anything. Then the dust cleared. The queen was dead. Her massive body lay across the northern fields, already cooling, and standing on top of her, battered and bloody but alive, was Vex. The dragon lifted his head and roared in victory, but it was not a scary sound. It was a joyful sound, a proud sound. The colonists began to cheer. They hugged each other. They cried. They laughed. They had done the impossible. They had killed a queen. Yuna ran to Vex. The dragon jumped down from the queen's body and limped toward her. When they met, Vex lowered his head and pressed his nose against her chest. She wrapped her arms around his snout and held him tight. "We did it," she whispered. "We did it together." The sun rose over Korra 7. The light touched the dead queen, the damaged colony, the exhausted people. It touched the other Korans, too, the ones from the migration. They had come back. They stood at the edge of the forest, watching. They had seen everything. They had seen humans and a dragon fight together. They had seen the queen fall. Slowly, one of the larger Korans walked forward. It stopped a few meters from Yuna and Vex. It looked at them for a long moment. Then it lowered its head, almost like a bow. Other Korans did the same. One by one, they showed respect to the human and the dragon who had saved them all. Commander Do-hyun walked up to Yuna. His uniform was torn and dirty. His face was tired. But he was smiling. "I think," he said slowly, "that we need to change our approach to this planet." Yuna smiled back. "I think so too." In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The colonists stopped hunting Korans. The Korans stopped avoiding humans. Slowly, carefully, the two species began to learn about each other. Vex stayed with Yuna. He was not a pet. He was not a guard dog. He was her partner, her friend, her family. Other colonists began forming bonds with younger Korans who approached the settlement. Taiho learned to accept Vex. He even learned to like him, though he would never admit it. Hana became famous for making the first Koran dictionary, recording the sounds and gestures the creatures used to communicate. And Yuna? She became the colony's first ambassador to the Korans. She spent her days walking between two worlds, helping both sides understand each other. One evening, she sat on a hill outside the colony with Vex beside her. The sun was setting over the forest. In the distance, she could see human buildings and Koran nests side by side. Humanity had come to Korra 7 expecting to conquer, she said quietly. We thought we were better than everything else, smarter, stronger. Vex made a soft sound. He rested his head on her lap. We were wrong, Yuna continued. We are not better, but we are not worse either. We are just different, and maybe that is okay. Maybe that is even good. She looked up at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. Somewhere out there were other worlds, other species, other chances for humanity to make the same mistakes or different ones. But here on Korra 7, they had learned something important. They had learned that mercy was not weakness, kindness was not stupidity. And the strongest thing in the universe was not claws or fire or weapons. It was compassion. Vex lifted his head and looked at her with those golden eyes. He made a sound that Yuna had come to know well, a sound that meant love. That meant home. She smiled and scratched his scales. The stars came out, one by one, watching over a world where humans and dragons had learned to be friends. And somewhere in the universe, perhaps, other species were waiting to be understood too. All they needed was someone brave enough to try.